Honorable Men Discord. Not so legendary? Let's talk about it. All right, let's get straight to it. Shedeur Sanders was drafted 144 overall in the fifth round. Now, initially, I didn't know exactly where I wanted to take this episode, but I think it's obvious. Why was someone who was revered as one of the top quarterbacks picked up in the fifth round? And I heard different comments from different outlets. Specifically, I saw the coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers speak on it, and I started to question. I'm like, all right, as an outsider looking in, when I saw the image to the side of me from day one of the draft, I saw the big chain, the oversized charm, pendant, however you want to call it, and I said to myself, I didn't even look at his wrist. I just saw the chain. I said, yeah, this guy is really full of himself. Now, I spoke to a colleague of mine, and I was informed that many others had attire just like that. But for me, I thought it was a little bit, what's the word I should use? For lack of a better way of expressing, I just thought it was a little bit showing too much confidence, overconfident, right? Now, hear me out on this, because I'm all over the place with this. I felt as though when you're drafted, I don't care if we're talking about the NBA draft, football draft, whatever draft it may be, you need to have a level of humility and be a little humbled. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not confident in your ability, but what you did to get you to that point of the draft is just the beginning, because you still have to set foot on the court. If it's basketball, you still have to set foot, on the field if it's football. And I just feel as though athletes always have to be humble, and I'm going to tell you why. You always have to be humble because, as we all know, there's stories of athletes who were projected to be first draft picks, and I'm talking both basketball and football here. We know stories. If we don't know stories, ask some of your elders about these stories of athletes that were supposed to be first in the draft, and tragedy strikes, and then next thing you know, they either don't make it into the draft, either they're severely injured to the point where they can't even play at all. There's been incidents of athletes passing away, unfortunately. So what I'm trying to say is, when I saw him with this big chain, I said to myself, the chain, the jewelry, it's almost as if it is a celebration. Making it to the draft, by no means is it not a celebration. But I thought it was overdone with the chain, because you're getting drafted. You still have to show and prove in the NFL. There's been plenty of times people who were spectacular in college, and again, I'm talking basketball and football. As soon as they came to the big league, as soon as they transitioned to the big league, I should say, they just did not meet the expectations. And once again, I'm not saying don't celebrate. I'm not even here to speak on the amount of family and cameras Shedeur had for day one and the days preceding that. But you have to be somewhat humble, because at the end of the day, what this should show you is that there's no guarantee that you're going to even be picked. Now, was this an intentional snub? I believe so. Was there racism within this? Possibly. I'm not going to deny any of those things. So I'm not here just to just talk about Shador and the way he presented himself during the draft. But I'm also pointing out the fact that there's nothing guaranteed in this life. You got to take it day by day. You got to humble yourself. Be confident in everything that you do, but always be humble and always be grateful for the opportunity every single day. Because in this life, it could all be taken away. It could all be taken away. Um, but now just going back to this whole thing, and I didn't pay attention to this stuff at first until I really dived into this. I didn't realize it seems like he has a clothing brand. I see he has looks like the dollar sign and a whole bunch of legendary. I didn't pay attention to that. I was just paying attention to what he was wearing, what he said when he was disappointed at the fact that he wasn't chosen right away. And I said, there's a lot going on here. Again, doing way too much. But in all fairness, his father, Deion Sanders, aka Prime Time, Neon Deion. For those of you who remember his father played two sports. His father excelled in both baseball, professional baseball, MLB, and in the NFL, right? So coming from that doesn't necessarily mean the son is automatically going to be that way. But in this case, it seems like the son, I don't know if it's influenced by his father or that's just how he is. It could be a little bit of both or maybe just one. But then it's understandable why he has a big chain. Because if you know anything about Deion Sanders, when he was playing, Deion Sanders was super flashy and very outspoken. He was like a NFL version of Muhammad Ali when it came to, when the cameras are on him and the microphone was in front of his face. Very much like a Muhammad Ali in a sense, as far as his charisma. So with that being said, I understand it from that point of view, but still, what you need to take from this is that you kind of, with certain, especially with the NFL, let me speak on the NFL, you kind of have to go through those doors with confidence, but gently. Because if there's one thing that, I don't know if anyone has paid attention with the NFL, if there's one thing that you need to know about the NFL reminds me of NASCAR, right? I could think of the NFL, NASCAR, and golf. All right. I'm not even going to go into hockey because I don't believe African Americans are interested in hockey. And that's no disrespect to hockey. I hear when you go to a live hockey game, it's amazing. It's electrifying. I've heard about it. But let's just stick to the three that I mentioned. NFL, NASCAR, golf. Those three sports are the type of sports that, as an African American, you have to gingerly walk through those doors. Anyone who disagrees with me on what I'm saying thus far, I'll see you in the comments. But the three that I mentioned, you got to walk through those doors gingerly. Why? Because those three things, those three sports, those three fields don't necessarily have a track record of wanting African Americans there in the first place. They operate as clubs that want to remain the way they started. They don't necessarily want you in there. Let's be honest. The only reason why African Americans are in football is because the NFL, after looking at analytics and everything, trust me, they're well aware of the fact that what would the NFL be if you don't let African Americans in? And again, if you're disagreeing with what I'm saying, I'll see you in the comments. All right. The NFL will definitely embrace players, but the higher up you want to get in the NFL, as far as, I don't want to say coaching because we had several black coaches, but when you want to get into the ownership, you got to jump through hoops. I remember there was a point in time when Diddy and I believe Rick Ross were interested in buying teams, and Diddy is well off. At least at the time, I believe he was well off. It's like his money was chump change when it came time to trying to get a team. Nothing became of it. Same thing for Rick Ross, and Rick Ross. Yeah, I want to say most recently he even mentioned he's still interested in probably trying to get part ownership or something like that of the Miami Dolphins, right? And at one point he was even talking about getting a parking spot at the very least. And I was like, yeah, they probably would give you a parking spot before they give you any type of ownership in the Miami Dolphins. Why am I saying all this? Again, NFL, NASCAR, golf. They operate as clubs that don't really want you in there. Point blank, period. If you disagree with me, I'll see you in the comments. But this is just a fact. If you're gonna dispute that, show me proof of especially when we talk about NASCAR drivers, crews that take care of the cars. I mean, Michael Jordan's the only one that I know of that broke into NASCAR as far as like ownership, having a car and stuff like that. It these things are, I just feel like when it comes to having ownership in these things, again, NFL, NASCAR, golf, I just feel like in some ways they play the same games of the Jim Crow era, where how do I say this? How do I pronounce that word? I'm tongue tied right now. Give me one moment. Eligibility, and for some reason that word I'm struggling to get that word out. Not that I don't know what the word is. Forgive me on this. Eligibility. They play with eligibility and how it is for you to get in, and that's just the strategy of racism. Period. In 2025, some of it is directly, it's straight at you with racism. Others are done with terms of condition, right? So NFL, golf, NASCAR, they make it almost impossible for you to have ownership in these things, regardless if you're qualified or not. This episode is not a matter of whether or not Shedeur was qualified to go in the first round. I think everyone could agree, which is why everyone reacted the way they reacted when he didn't get through. This is exactly why everybody acted the way they acted. But you got to understand, in those three things that I mentioned, and obviously I didn't mention the NBA. Why? Because say what you want about Adam Silver, he works with the players. Maybe he works with them a little bit too much to the point where people think that he's a pushover, but he works with the players. Again, if you disagree with me, I'll see you in the comments. I just feel like Shedeur and his father, Prime, were humbled by the NFL, and that was originally going to be my title for this. I changed it to Not So Legendary because he runs with this legendary. I think it's his brand or something like that. But they were humbled because the NFL seems to be the type of organization that wants to make sure listen, it's a privilege to be here with us. We don't need you. Even though they need the African American players. Make no mistake about that. And if you disagree with that, I'll see you in the comments. Even though they need the athletes, the African American athletes, because there's a lot of African American talented athletes in the NFL, right? They want to put the message out there, slow down. Yes, your father is a Hall of Famer. And yes, you've shown to be a good quarterback in college. Slow down. All right? We'll let you know when you come through these doors. That was the message I believe was sent indirectly, or you can say directly, by the NFL. And if you disagree with me, I'll see you in the comments. They humbled him. Right? Now, let's take race out of this. right? Let's for sake of argument, because this channel is all about disputes. I don't expect anyone to agree with me. Let's take race out of it. What other nationality with a father that did what he did in the NFL, right? That has a son that seems to be a legit athlete in any position, doesn't even matter the position, would have gone through what Shedeur went through. And we didn't even speak on the prank call. Do I have the prank call? Let's go to the prank call. I was gonna play this speech, but we all know the speech already. So let's just go to the prank call for those of you who missed the prank call.
This is Mickey Loomis here, GM of the Saints.
How you doing?
Good, how are you, man?
Good, been waiting on you.
Yeah, we have. It's been a long wait, man.
No, for sure.
We're gonna take you with our next pick right here, man.
Yeah. Yes, sir, let's be legendary.
Yeah, but you're gonna have to wait a little bit longer, man.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Ready to go! What does that mean?
What? What did he say?
I don't know.
How you gonna ask us what it means and you was on the phone?
You heard that?
You said you're gonna have to wait a little bit longer.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Why did he talk? What the fuck?
Hey, that's fucked
I
up.
don't know what that was. It's 50-50. But nobody got this number though.
Did they just troll, bro?
Okay.
Man, he just got trolled, bro. They tripping now, fam. Now I'm gonna crash out, bro.
That's wild. You know what it is? Say one.
So, to be clear on this video, Shedeur has been said to have said, or I should say, Shedeur said that that number was only given out to, I guess, teams. Right? That number wasn't, that particular line, that phone line wasn't just given to anyone. So, it's safe to say someone from the league decided to prank him. Again, what other nationality would have been pranked? Something so serious like this, life-changing like this, an NFL draft, with family and friends around, waiting for you to get that call to celebrate with you. I'll wait in the comments. We can say it's not about race, but would that have happened to anyone other than a black person? Am I reaching by saying that? We can talk about it in the comments. Now, do I agree with the whole Shedeur, talking to the GM, let's make it legendary? At the beginning of the fake call, the prank call, the fake GM said something along the lines, let's make it legendary. He said it first, right? Let's play this again.
This is Mickey Loomis here, GM of the Saints.
How you doing?
Good, how are you, man? This is Mickey Loomis here, GM of the Saints.
How you doing?
Good, how are you, man?
Good, been waiting on you.
Yeah, we have. It's been a long wait, man.
No, for sure.
We're gonna take you with our next pick right here, man.
Yeah. Yes, sir, let's be legendary.
Yeah, but you're gonna have to wait.
All right, so I think I was wrong. I thought I heard him say it in a different video. Let's make it legendary first, but it seems like he says the GM's name first.
This is Mickey Loomis here, GM of the Saints.
How you doing?
Good, how are you, man?
Good, been waiting on you.
Yeah, we have. It's been a long wait, man.
No, for
We're
sure.
gonna take you with our next pick right here, man.
Yeah. Yes, sir, let's be legendary.
Yeah, but you're gonna have to wait a little bit longer, man.
All right, so I stand corrected. So I thought on a separate video, and if maybe this video is different, maybe it started from a different point. I thought the person who was pranking him said the word legendary first, but he said the name of the GM from the Saints. So he's pretending like he's the GM from the Saints, and it was Shedeur that said, let's make it legendary. I don't agree with the treatment of him being pranked. I don't agree with him coming in the 5th round, right? Those are two things I don't agree with. The pranking of Shedeur and him coming in the 5th round, when we all know he shouldn't have been in the 5th round. Those two things I don't agree with, right? Now, I also don't agree with, again, him being too flamboyant to a degree as far as like overconfident during draft night, because again, the NFL is showing you that they want to humble you, because they're telling you, listen, you come through the doors when we're ready for you to come through the doors. But I don't think he should have been pranked. All right, I don't think anyone should be pranked. For the to be specific, I don't think anyone should be pranked. Again, what other nationality would that happen to? And I'll see you in the comments with that. Just keep in mind, this is the same NFL that made sure they made an example out of Colin Kaepernick. Now, Colin Kaepernick, excuse me, although he did get an opportunity, there was a chance for him to come into the NFL. He messed that up too. There was a whole issue with the field that he was supposed to try out on. And so he kind of like blew that, and he wasn't really serious about coming back. He turned it into a spectacle, a LeBron-esque spectacle. And yes, I'm saying that even though I'm a LeBron fan, but Colin Kaepernick is a little bit different, but they still made an example of him to a degree, right? I'm a Giants fan. The Giants made a spectacle of Odell. Some might argue that Odell made a spectacle of himself, but they let Odell go, and all he did was pretty much, he just showed that he was passionate. I know he was doing things on the side of the field that the organization probably didn't like, because he was so passionate about winning that he was kicking stuff on the side, and I guess they didn't want to deal with that. But it seems as though they don't want to deal with a personality that seems like it's trying to be bigger than the organization. That's the point I'm trying to make. I don't believe the NFL is a fan. Those in charge, the owners, they're not a fan of personalities that try to be larger than the organization, larger than the team, larger than the coaches. They just want you to play, be excellent, but slow it down. Ochocinco, if I'm not mistaken, Chad Ochocinco, if I'm not mistaken, he had his dealings with the NFL as far as he felt like he should have been a Hall of Famer. I'm not here to talk about Chad Ochocinco's stats, so I don't know whether or not he's worthy of being a Hall of Famer, but I believe he had his run-ins also with the NFL as far as being humbled for how he was overconfident in his career. But that's the message that I feel everyone should take from the Shedeur 5th round pickup, is he's being humbled. And I don't even know if it's just directly towards him. It's also towards Sanders, Deion Sanders. It's also to show him that, listen, yeah, you have a name, but slow down. We know that you're a Hall of Famer. We know that what you did for the HSB, the Historical Black College. We know what you did for Colorado, but slow down. That's the overall message. If there is no message, that's the overall message. Now, whether or not there was a lot of racism involved in that message, I mean, that's to be determined. I guess that's subjective, but that's the overall message. Let me I just want to play Stephen A. Smith, and he speaks on this. So let's get into that.
I've been covering sports for 30 years plus. I have never seen a projected first-round pick drop like this. 5 quarterbacks, as of the time of taping this show, have been picked. There was speculation he was going to be number 1.
Right.
Now, ultimately, Cam Ward, it was always him or Cam Ward. But how the hell you go from speculating about him or Cam Ward to Jackson Dart and Milroe and Jalen Milroe and all of these cats being picked ahead of him? How that happened? The Browns needed a quarterback. The New Orleans Saints needed a quarterback. Before they acquired Geno Smith in Oakland, Las Vegas, they needed a quarterback. New Orleans needed a quarterback. The Pittsburgh Steelers needed a quarterback. The Giants had the number 3 overall pick. And then they had a pick in the second round and traded up to the first round to get a quarterback and still chose somebody other than him in Jackson Dart. Yo, that's not about football. That's about something else.
Yeah.
And he's gonna leave it like that because he's Stephen A. Smith. He works for ESPN outside of his podcast, so he's not gonna jeopardize his job at ESPN from being blunt. But I think we can decode what he's trying to say. Listen, the NFL is making it clear. We run it, not you. And this is similar to I don't know if any of you have seen the documentary on the Chicago Bulls, The Last Dance. This came out, I want to say, around COVID time on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, it's a great watch. But this is similar to what happened in the last season of the Chicago Bulls with at that time the owner Jerry Krause. I believe his name is Jerry Krause, right? Jerry Krause. Now it's a little bit different because Jerry Krause, it was said in the documentary, the team didn't necessarily respect him, right? They used to make fun of him because of how he looked. He was a little short, pudgy guy with a belly, with these dorky glasses. So that the Chicago Bulls players pretty much made fun of him. They didn't respect him, right? I don't agree with that. All right, I just don't agree with that. I don't agree with bullying on any level, and I don't believe in disrespect of a supervisor just for the sake of disrespecting them. That's just how I was raised. Now I'm not saying supervisors should be disrespecting you or speaking down to you as if that you're not an adult, but I don't agree with that. But in any event, because of the Chicago Bulls' treatment to Krause, he got to a point where he wanted to, show them who's boss. And for whatever reason, he was having his disagreements with Phil Jackson because, much like what I'm saying with this, and this is what I'm telling you, when you go, you could be talented and confident, but remember, when you're working for somebody, the NFL, NBA, NASCAR, you're pretty much an employee. But the problem is that egos get involved, right? That's the word I should have been using from the beginning of this. Your egos get involved, and you start thinking you're bigger than the employer. Now, anyone who jumps in the comments to disagree, you can disagree, but just understand you're not the boss, right? And these organizations, that's why they have the right to pick and choose how they want to strategize the particulars and the criteria to let you in, because they don't have to let you in. You could want to own a team of the NFL like Diddy and Rick Ross wanted to own a team, but they don't have to let you in. But here's the thing. So Krause, because of his treatment that he was getting from the team and how he was clashing with, at the time, Phil Jackson, he pretty much let Phil Jackson know that he wasn't going to be bringing him back. And that's the nature of the documentary. And so Michael Jordan now, using his celebrity and his popularity, I mean, he's Michael Jordan, the biggest face of the NBA at that time, and still to this day, still the biggest face of basketball. Michael Jordan basically let Krause know, listen, if Phil goes, I go. So Michael Jordan, with his loyalty to Phil Jackson, tried to use his celebrity to show the owner, like, listen, you get rid of Phil, you're getting rid of me. Well, guess what happened? Krause still let go of Phil Jackson, which in turn Michael Jordan left. Right? And why am I bringing up the Chicago Bulls to this scenario? At the end of the day, no matter what sport you're playing, no matter how great you are at that sport, humble yourself, because you're just an employee. You're making a lot of money, yes. You got shoe deals, etc., etc. You got clothing line. You're talking about, let's make it legendary. You're about to get drafted. You missed the first draft, and I'm now back to talking about Shedeur. You missed the first round, and here you are. I think, I don't know if that was filmed on the second day of the draft or what day it was, but you're picking up the phone saying, I was waiting for this call. Let's be legendary. Dude, before you even get to your first game, you could be in an unfortunate accident that wasn't even your fault. And then there's no such thing as being legendary. I don't understand why and I don't want to go off track because I know I'm going to make this video extremely long. And I'm noticing this with sports, and I blame it on sports. It's a gift and curse. Like, you know, the players are getting paid way more than those of the past, right? These players. But it's a gift and a curse because this is what's happening now. The egos have elevated, and everyone thinks like out the gate they're the superstar, which is why first person that comes to mind when we're talking basketball, Ja Morant got humbled. He's extremely cocky and got swept. You know, I have this conversation with my cousin all the time, and he brought up the fact I brought him up on one of my videos. He was like, "Oh, I heard you talk about me on one of the videos." So, my cousin, if you're watching this, I'm talking about you again, right? My cousin seems to believe that this NBA is much better than the NBA that I was raised on, and I'm talking about the Charles Barkley, the Michael Jordan, we could even say Duncan Robinson, Alonzo Mourning, Patrick Ewing. That's the NBA I was raised on, right? Reggie Miller. And I know this is a football topic, but stay with me here. This is about the egos. That's really what this Shador thing is about. The NFL humbled his ego and his father's ego. You're not bigger than the organization. You're just not. No matter what you did outside of the NFL and what you did in the NFL or what you plan to do when you come to the NFL. Humble yourself, because we will humble you for you, right? My cousin seems to think that NBA of today is better. They're bigger, stronger, faster. That's what he always says. They're bigger, stronger, faster than that of the NBA when Michael Jordan was playing. You know, he thinks Michael Jordan was just a product of great marketing. I'm not going to go into that. I completely disagree with him. I'm not going into that. The point I'm trying to make is the difference between that generation and this generation is that generation you like, yeah, we made it to the NBA, but we got work to do. That's the difference. What I'm noticing with this era of sports is everyone comes in feeling like they're the best thing that ever touched down on the face of earth. And it's not just in NFL. It's basketball. Everyone feels like as soon as they touch down, because now you could get a sneaker deal and you didn't even win a championship and you get a sneaker deal. But yet this is the best NBA. They're bigger, stronger, faster. Okay, they're definitely taller. These guys are like out of Space Jams. They're monsters. But that doesn't mean that overall you're getting the best performance out of these guys. If anything, these guys whine more than anything, and now I'm talking about basketball. I can't say that about football, but these guys whine and complain, and they're not even injured, and they act as though they're so theatrical and rolling on the floor, acting like they're severely injured, and then 5 minutes later they're back up and they high-fiving their teammates, and it was just all a show. They're not even hurt. But I'm digressing. The message that should be learned from this, in conclusion, is when you, as an employee in these sports, you know, and they don't like to consider themselves that word is not even used, because we're talking about $1 million deals. So these guys come into these leagues and they think they're larger than life because, they're doing commercials, they're doing Gatorade commercials, they're doing, I don't know, State Farm, whatever is out there. They got they got shoe deals from all these different potential sneaker companies, athletic brands. These guys come in with these huge egos and they haven't even won anything yet. They haven't even won a championship. So, you know, it's great that they're able to make the money that they're making to feed their family, but the egos are out of control. And this is the NFL saying, time out, sit down. We'll get to you when we're ready to get to you. It's almost to the point where I wonder if there was a discussion had and they notified all the teams, listen, we're going to make an example out of the Sanders family. It's one of those things I wouldn't be surprised if that comes out. If it comes out, because, you know, it might be like a something behind closed doors that's they got tight lids on. But that's my thought on it. I don't want to keep rambling on. I'll see you in the comments. As always, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.